Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about simplifying square roots. That is our success criteria. We're going to go ahead and jump in with talking about what the perfect squares are. And if you'll remember the perfect squares, what I'm talking about by that is that if I take 1 squared, I get 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and so forth. So my perfect squares are 16, 25, 36, 49, what would be next? 64, 81, 100, 121, 169, 196. Now that gets us up to 14 squared. I would say you need to know all the way up to 15. That would be 225, just so that you're comfortable. This is also going to help you with factoring also somewhat if you know your perfect squares. Now, when I talk about the perfect squares, remember I got the number 4 by taking 2 and squaring it, the number 1 by taking 1 and squaring it, the number 9 by taking 3 and square it. So when I ask you, or when I say to you that a number R, okay, is the square root, R is the square root of some number S, that is only true if S is a perfect square, okay? So what I mean by that, again, if I'm looking for the, let's say, square root of 16, then that would be 4, okay? Now, remember when we talk about this symbol here, okay, it is meant to be the square root because there's no number out in front here, okay? But the actual symbol itself, guys, is called a radical, okay? That is just the symbol. Saying it is, you don't say radical 2, okay? That's just saying the symbol radical is above it. So it would be the square root of 2, which is understood that this number is a 2. We just don't write it in. That's very similar to if we have x, we know that that means 1x, but we don't put the 1 out in front. It's not wrong. The same way over here, if you put that 2, it's not wrong, but it is not necessary. If you have the cube root, it would be a 3, and a fourth root, it would be 4. Now, we're going to later on start talking about what we call rational exponents. And what we actually do is anything that is a square root, let's say I'm wanting the square root of 4, then I write that with a fractional exponent, okay? And the 1 comes from the power here, and the 2 comes from what we call the root or the exponent, or the root or the radicand. Root or index, get my words right. So let's go ahead and put those words on here. This is called the radicand. This is your index out here. And so when I do 4, this is, again, the exponent. And this is your index. Or I a lot of times just refer to it as the power over the root, okay? So power over root. We'll talk more about that later on. So a cube root, though, if I was wanting the, let's say, cube root of 8, that would be to the 1/3 power. Again, 1/3. If I wanted the fourth root of, what's a good number, 81, let's say I would say 81 to the 1/4, again, because that is a 1 there. But again, like I said, that's not something you have to know on this lesson, but it is definitely something that we will do in the near future. So let's just talk about 2 different methods, and I'll tell you which one is my favorite of doing the square root of. And, you know, if you can do it in your head, great for you. What I don't want you to do is become dependent upon your calculator, because there's always a chance I'll give you a quiz where you're not allowed to use your calculator. So the first method is what we call the prime factorization. Okay, and that's kind of, if you think back from when you were in grade school, that factor tree that you do, you know, that looks like this, that's what we're talking about. So if I take 20 And I just say what will give me 20. What two numbers multiplied together will give me 20. What are two factors of 20, using that word factor. And I'm just going to do 2 and 10, okay, which is fine. And then 2, again, if I then look at 10 is 2 and 5. Now, I'm not doing necessarily a tree per se, but it's still that same concept, because if I did draw in a tree, it would be right here, and then there's my 2, okay? And when I look at it, the easiest way, I guess I don't need that there, the easiest way that I tell kids, and this helps for higher roots other than 2, is that when I'm taking the square root, again, I am taking this number times itself, okay, 3 times 3. So I have 2 3s, okay? I have 2 3s that give me 9. So when I come here, what I do is I say, okay, I have a set of 2s. That's my 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. And so this becomes 2 square root 5, okay? Or another way I tell the kids is once you have a partner, you can come outside. And so that group of 2s come outside, okay? So that is what we call prime factorization, okay? That, again, is not my favorite. My favorite way is to do it by perfect squares. And what I simply do, because I have these perfect squares memorized, I mentally in myself say which one of these numbers is the largest number that will go into 20. Okay, so I just start going through there. Well, yeah, 1 will, yes, 4 will, 9 won't, 16 won't. Well, now I'm already up to 20, so 4 is my biggest number. And so all I do is I come, and it's still a kind of a prime factorization, but I do the square root of 4. I always put my perfect square first, and I know it's 4 times 5. Now I've got the square root of 4, which is 2 and 5. So either way works, but I will tell you that prime factorization every now and then gets really long, okay? So that is the notes piece of it here, and then I am just, again, going to just go through some problems on the next quick video, but I don't want to make this too long.